to Academia series, which is co-sponsored by the Duke Graduate School and the Duke Career Center. And today we're pleased to welcome our panelists, who again, I'd like to thank very much for coming here, schlepping all the way through the rain to get to our panel discussion. We very much appreciate you taking the time out of your schedules to come back and visit us. So Josh Johnson received his PhD in experimental psychology from, where did you do?
Auburn University.
Auburn, okay. And then he did his postdoc here at Duke. And he is now Regulatory Affairs Manager at Merck's Pharmaceutical. Before that, he was at Camargo. And Kelly Lindblom got her PhD in pharmacology right here at Duke, and she is now Regulatory Affairs Scientist for the Duke Office of Regulatory Affairs and Quality. And Kelly McKnight got her PhD in genetics, did a postdoc at Duke, and is now Regulatory Affairs Coordinator at the Duke Cancer Institute. So you may be seeing a theme here. You can get your PhD or do a postdoc here and then stay here and still be in academia, right? And Tina Wang did her PhD in neuroscience, did her postdoc here at Duke in the Ann West Lab, and is now Senior Regulatory Affairs Specialist for GW Pharmaceuticals. So we're going to start by having the panelists introduce themselves briefly, give us a little bit of their background, and then we'll start with questions. And several of you submitted questions online, so we'll start with those. So feel free to jump in if you have a question. So Josh, would you like to start today?
Sure, that'd be fine. So my name is Josh Johnson, as Molly mentioned. Did my PhD in experimental psychology and was at Auburn University, which, despite what you may or may not believe about Auburn, Alabama, it's not the mecca of biotech that you might think it is. So I knew I didn't want to really pursue a career in academia. So my options were sort of limited as to, what I could see or do or learn about locally, since there wasn't a whole lot going on there. So I came to Duke, did my postdoc in the school. My advisor had so many different appointments, I don't know what his primary one was. But it's smoking cessation research with Ed Levin on his off-campus lab. So I was never over in these buildings. So even now, I'm like, oh, which one was that? But so my goal when I came to Duke was really to kind of explore what the sort of RTP area had to offer in terms of careers outside of academia. And through events like this with Molly, through events at the Biotech Center, I found a position with a small CRO that was just starting to build out in this area, Camargo Pharmaceutical Services. I was there for about 3.5 to 4 years and left, and I've been now with MERS for about 1.5 years as a regulatory affairs manager over there. And we can talk a little bit later about the differences that I've seen working for Camargo, which was more a CRO, sort of small regulatory consulting firm, and MERS, which is like mid-size pharma company.
Thanks, Josh. Kelly?
All right, hi, I'm Kelly. As Molly mentioned, I did my PhD here at Duke in pharmacology and cancer biology. When I first came to Duke for grad school, I thought I wanted to work in industry as a researcher, but from coming to events similar to this, I quickly realized that that's not really what I wanted to do. It sounded really kind of competitive, and I changed my mind. So I was trying to explore career options during grad school. I did a number of kind of extracurricular activities like Duke Scholars in Molecular Medicine. I don't know if you've heard of that. I can talk about it more later if you're interested. I also volunteered for a clinical research study for about 1 year. So I kind of explored more of the clinical research side during grad school. And then I graduated in 2015, and I was the Assistant Director of Research Initiatives for the Office of the Vice Provost for Research. And so about half my job was overseeing the campus oversight organization. So it was for campus researchers who were submitting IRB protocols for human subjects research over to the health system IRB. So I'd review their protocols and train them and stuff. And then the other half of my job was more project management. So then a little over 1 year after doing that job, I started my job in the Office of Regulatory Affairs and Quality about 6 or 7 months ago.
I'm also Kelly. I did my PhD at Florida State University. My work was a lot of basic science, more gene regulation, cell cycle regulation. So I was looking for a postdoc that had something that I could learn more about human subjects research and more closer to the clinical side. So I came to Duke and started at the Center for Human Disease Modeling. I was there for about a little under 2 years. I also attended a lot of the postdoc workshops, and I took the regulatory affairs training workshop, I don't know what it's called now, at OREC. And so that got me interested in regulatory affairs. And then while doing a postdoc, while at Duke, I was also a global scholar through GSK, which got me interested in pharma. And yeah, then got my job with the genitourinary oncology group at DCI, and been there a little over a year now.
Thanks, Kelly. Tina?
Hi everyone, I'm Xiaoting Wang. I also go by Tina, so you can call me Tina. I obtained a PhD in neuroscience at Chicago Medical School, Dominic Franklin University. After a few years into the PhD program, I basically realized I don't want to pursue academia position like for the rest of my life. So I started thinking to apply industry position during the last year of my PhD, but I was only looking at like a bench scientist position or postdoctoral position in industry. Then quickly I also realized there are not many scientist position available basically. I mean, given my research background is in drug addiction, and drug addiction is not a very hot area for industry to invest the money. So basically I decided to move on. I accepted the opportunity with Duke. I joined NWAS lab to do a postdoc work here. I was at Duke for 2 years. So during the 2-year period, I actually also was very interested to explore what are the opportunities here in the RTP area. So I started to attend a lot of career fair events like this, and also I attended a lot of social networking events organized by the local companies in the RTP area. Then after talking to many professionals, I realized regulatory affairs or clinical research would be the area I wanted to move into. So I started looking for training opportunities. I did training classes with NCREF. I obtained my REG certificate after that. I did 2 internships, one with DTMI, the regulatory internship. I also did the internship with Camargo. Actually, Josh was one of my mentors there. So then I started looking seriously for a full-time job. I actually accepted my first industry job at AbbVie. It's a big pharma separated from Abbott. So I moved back to Chicago to be a clinical trial specialist. I was there very briefly, only for 3 months. I wasn't actually thinking to move to another job, but I was contacted by a recruiter for a regulatory position in RTP. And I was very interested in this position because the company is specialized in neurological diseases. We are doing medicine for treating neurological diseases, which fit very well with my scientific background. So I took the opportunity, and I was accepted as a regulatory specialist there. I have been with my current company, which is GW Pharmaceutical, for about 2 years now. I'm happy to talk more about my experience with GW Pharmaceutical later on.
That's great, thank you. And I wonder if you could all talk about, basically like what a typical day is like, your job responsibilities. And I know for some of you there's a lot of overlap. So like Josh, you said that, Camargo could also be described as a CRO, but you're doing regulatory. So kind of like what the landscape's like for your positions or job roles.
Sure, I can start. So just speaking to my 2 specific experiences in regulatory affairs. So with Camargo, small regulatory consulting company, CRO-ish, around this area we have, Quintiles and PPD, and we have a lot of like the largest CROs in the world that are headquartered in this area. But Camargo, very small, very niche, very specialty. And basically what we did at Camargo was we had a lot of clients that were foreign, some domestic, where we would go and essentially have the interaction with the FDA for these companies. So we would have pre-IND meetings, we would submit their INDs for them, we would go to their end of phase 2 meetings, we would prepare their NDAs, go to their pre-NDA meetings. It was really a company that was based on coming up with regulatory strategy. And Camargo specifically, which is good news for everybody here that might be interested, really recruits people that come from this area with postdocs. They want people with a scientific background because they're where you're working with a bunch of different companies that have a bunch of different drug products that are across a vast amount of therapeutic areas. You really have to bounce around a lot. Like in a given day, you might be working on 5 different projects with 5 different drugs across 5 different therapeutic areas. So you're never really going to be like an expert like you guys are now on whatever your area of study is, but you have to be able to sort of read, understand the scientific literature, apply it to what they teach you about regulatory affairs and what you need to get a drug approved. And then also like the ability to write. That's a huge one for regulatory affairs. If you can write, that's a huge skill because there's a lot of writing involved, right? A lot of the communication that you have with FDA is through these documents that I mentioned, the IND, the NDA. These are what the FDA use essentially to decide whether or not to approve your drug or biologic. So at Camargo, I was really bouncing around sort of as a project lead on a bunch of different projects at different stages of drug development. And it was a good experience for me to get sort of a grasp on the whole drug development picture and see things that were very early stage, haven't been given to humans at all, to, all right, here's all of our studies, put them together in a nice tidy package for FDA to review. So, you know, working for those small companies, a lot of times you get a lot of hands-on experience, interacting with upper level people that you may not at like a larger CRO or a larger pharma company, and you really get a wide breadth of experience working in regulatory affairs documents. But I also got burned out on that after a while, and it kind of became monotonous for me once I was hitting like the 3-year mark. It was different. There were different drugs, there were different clients, but it was sort of the same equation that I was plugging into every day. Like, all right, I need to work on this pre-IND meeting package. I need to write this IND section. I need to have this client call and talk about regulatory strategy, how to get this drug approved. So I really wanted to sort of broaden my regulatory experience and see what it was like on the pharma side. You know, I'd always worked in that CRO landscape. And so at MERS, it's a little bit different. It's a mid-sized pharma company. Our headquarters is in Germany, so there's a lot of early calls. The time difference. The main sort of new area that's come into my job has been advertising and promotion review. So companies that have approved drugs and promote them have to have an internal review board that approves the marketing material that's sent out to either consumers or healthcare professionals. And on those boards, typically you have someone from legal, you have someone from medical affairs, you have regulatory, and then you have marketing. So that was a very new thing for me to go and review actual, we had a commercial this past year, so I was reviewing that commercial, and there's a whole new set of rules and regulations through OPDP, the Office of Prescription Drug Promotion. And if you ever go on FDA's website, there's about 1 billion guidances for literally any topic. So again, my advice to you is, you might not know right now a lot about regulatory affairs, but you have the essential transferable skills in writing, in communication, being able to read scientific literature and understand things quickly, pick up on things quickly. The resources are out there for you to go and figure it out on your own. So if you have a little bit of a motor, you have a little bit of an initiative, you can get it done. And like Tina mentioned, She did the internship at Camargo. That's another great resource, and I know that Molly usually advertises for that within the postdoc listserv. And really, from my experience, no one I've ever met in this area, none of the interns that we had probably, in the time that I was there, like 20 to 25. No one has a motor like Tina. So if you have any question, she will know, because she has done it all.
Thanks, Josh. Kelly?
All right, so my day-to-day varies a lot. Overall, I'd say about 50% of my job is working on regulatory documents and more like medical writing. About 25% is education. So you heard a few of the other panelists mention that they did the internship that now it's called the Office of Regulatory Affairs and Quality, but it used to be called DTMI Regulatory Affairs. We run that, so we do like maybe 4 or 5 training programs every single year, so it's kind of constant where we have to each give lectures. I also give lectures for undergraduate or graduate classes, and then we also do workshops, and then also just sometimes study teams ask us to come and give them a lecture. And then the other 25% is, I would say, consulting. So we work with drugs, biologics, and devices in our office, and a lot of the device projects, they don't need to do clinical studies, but they come to us more for kind of the strategy for how to develop their device. So we're not necessarily working on documents with them, but kind of planning out their strategy. So there's a lot of variety day to day, since we get to work on things like pre-IND meetings, INDs, IDEs. We don't work on many marketing applications, just because Duke, helps more with clinical research than the actual marketing side, but there's still a lot of work.
Kelly?
So my day-to-day is probably mostly working on regulatory documents, attending meetings, emailing with sponsors or CROs, or also a lot of logistics we have to work out with other departments that do, like pathology, nuclear medicine, pharmacy, stuff like that. We do mostly phase 1 and 2 studies, and we do have some IND studies, so I've done, actually recently, my first initial IND application, which was fun. But so I'd say a lot of consent form is a big part of the job, trying to make sure everything's clear, the study, what's involved, the risks, and make sure that the patient understands everything. So that's where I think probably one of the main, the skills from my PhD and postdoc, critical thinking, trying to really make sure it's clear what's going on. And more there's a lot of biomarker studies, genetic studies, and so you got to think, well, what exactly are they looking at? What kind of things might they find? Are they looking at germline DNA? Might they find incidental mutation, findings, mutations? Or is it just looking at the tumor genetics? So, and relaying that to the consent form is really important.
So my day-to-day work also varies a lot, depending on what stage we are at and how quickly the projects are moving along. But a typical day, I would say I will spend 2 or 3 hours working on the emails. Also, my company is a UK-based company, and most of the IND people, they are located in the UK. So every morning when I open the email, I would get already 10 or 15-ish emails I need to respond. Also, because people are not physically located together, we are often on the teleconference call with our colleagues and with our consultants. So I'm also involved in all of the meetings, sub-team meeting for strategic planning, also meeting for updates to give updates to different functional teams. Also, if we are preparing for a major, like a milestone, regulatory milestone activities, like preparing for pre-IND meeting or preparing for pre-NDA meeting, that would require a lot of effort, a lot of planning. So I will be talking with people like constantly. Also, most of the time, I chase around people just to make sure all the deliverables are made on time. Remind people the timelines. Also, try to help them to solve the problems. What we can do to facilitate. I I also got a lot of writing project. I was responsible for application documents like orphan drug application, fast track application, breakthrough. So all these regulatory documentation, application documents, I was involved in writing some sections of the documents. So I would say it varies a lot, but because the environment keeps changing, I need to adapt to a lot of situations every day. I feel it's been very challenging, also rewarding experience to me.
Great, thank you. And for current postdocs and students, can you suggest any ways that they might be able to prepare themselves to get a foot in the door for this career? So you've mentioned the Camargo internships, obviously. There's the DTMI Regulatory Affairs internship. I think it's DTMI. You just go to the Duke website and Google Regulatory Affairs internship.
It's Office of Regulatory Affairs and Quality now.
Okay.
It used to be called DTMI.
Okay. All right, so are there other things you can think of? Like, would it be useful for postdocs and students to study for the RAC exam, for example, to go to NCRAF, North Carolina Regulatory Affairs Forum meetings, things like that?
I mean, it's always a good idea to, as I'm sure Tina will tell you, it's always a good idea to get out there and shake hands and kiss babies, get out and get to the NCRAFT events, meet people, talk about job. I mean, the best way to find out about job openings is to know people that work at companies that have job openings. So I mean, doing any sort of networking event, and I mean, I'll be completely honest, I absolutely abhor networking. I'm terrible at it. I'm introverted. I'm the guy that wants to stand in the corner and not talk to anybody.
No, you're not, you're fun.
So I mean, like, but you got to do it. It's the best way to sort of get out there and get in front of people. As far as the RAC goes, you know, I always tell people it's not going to hurt, but in my experience, it's not something that I've seen at places where I've been that people have valued a lot. I mean, I think it's something that, you know, everyone in this room is probably very capable of going and taking the course and taking the test and passing it and getting that certification. And it's definitely not a bad thing, but I would focus my energy in another direction. I mean, I have in my career. That's kind of served me better than studying for that test. But
I've heard it's really hard. I'm planning on taking it this year, but it's a difficult test.
yeah, I mean, it's like a 6-month prep course that Duke does for it, and then it's a very long, like, intricate test. And you know, as I said before, a lot of the information that you'll be tested on in that test are from publicly available documents that you could Google and pull up in like 5 seconds and read and probably understand. And if you didn't, you could probably ask somebody else you work with, hey, what do you think they mean by this? Or have you ever done one of these applications? What are they really looking for? So I mean, the answers are out there. It's really just, you know, another couple letters after your name that might help you get a job over someone.
Another resource that I found to be helpful, NIH offers a free course called IPPCR Introduction to Principles and Practices of Clinical Research. There's just a lot of lectures online. You can take a test. I think you can get like a certification thing, but really it's just good to have an overview of like all aspects of clinical research.
On that note, DIA does a wonderful seminar. It's very in-depth, and most of the people that go there are actually regulatory affairs professionals at a company. But it's called the IND and the NDA, and it's a super intensive 4-day event where they literally walk through every document in the IND and NDA, sort of complete overview. I mean, that to me, I mean, I did it after I had already worked in regulatory affairs for like 4 years, so many of the things I was already at least tangentially aware of, some of them very intimately aware of. But coming in without a breadth of knowledge on regulatory affairs, that absolutely is like the most comprehensive course that you can do if you were going to spend time and money towards something.
I think FDA also has a lot of good resources. They have kind of workshops or seminars that they also stream online. So I think it's called the Ready Conference. If you're, it's for both drugs and devices. I'm personally going to do the device one, but you can either go there in person or you can just stream it online. So that's a good resource. They also have something called CDRH Learn. If you're interested in devices, they put lots of different kind of instructional videos on their website. So if you're just kind of getting started, I think that could be like a pretty easy way to get training. I might disagree with Josh a little bit in terms of our office's opinion of the RAC. So I don't have my RAC yet. I'm also planning to take the exam this year, but I think it's something that the Office of Regulatory Affairs and Quality values. I think it's kind of expected that if you don't come in with it, you're going to get it within the first year or two. So you don't have to have it to get hired, but I think we all kind of think of it as an important certification.
Yeah, I did my RAC when I was at Duke doing my postdoc. So I took the classes with NC-RAC. They offer a lot of training classes to prepare you for the certification. I feel those classes are valuable. If you have time, definitely worthwhile to take those classes, especially if you are not very familiar with the regulatory affair, the terms, the major drug development processes. I think you can just get a very broad general knowledge about drug development, not only for regulatory affair, maybe for clinical trials. They did introduce a lot of basic principles for clinical trials as well. And they offered all these classes for like
$75.
Yeah, $75. The same kind of training classes, if you get it from reps, that would cost you like over $1,000 or something. So it's a valuable thing we have here in RTP, offered by NC-RAF. So I think it's a valuable resources to have.
And it's taught, I believe, every summer, the course,
Yeah,
like
every
right
summer.
over in Hawk Plaza. So it's on campus.
Starting from June to September, so it's like 3 months, once a week. You can take it in class, or they now offer like a webinar, so you can actually dial in just to listen to it at home.
Some questions from the audience?
Question. So, how do you foresee the job market in 2 or 3 years?
Pursue job market.
Yeah, how do you expect the job market in 2 or 3 years of regulatory affairs? Will it be very tight, or it will still have some positions?
So will companies be hiring more or less or about the same?
I feel it's a hot area.
Here's the good thing about regulatory affairs is any company is always going to need it. Like, you're always going to need to get your device, your drug, your whatever approved, and to do that you need a regulatory affairs department internally, or you need to get external consultants to do that work for you. So there's always a need. I talk to people, I interact with my marketing colleagues a lot throughout the review of pieces, and they're always very jealous because the regulatory affairs are much safer than the marketing jobs in pharma, right? Because if they don't deliver, they're gone and they're replaced by someone else. Whereas, regulatory affairs, smooth sailing, we do our job, we submit our documents on time, they're thorough, they're complete, and we're good. And the device area, Kelly could probably talk to this more, but that area is exploding. I mean, especially drug device combination products, those are just going through the roof. So.
And even like the genetic aspect, like diagnostic devices. It may not be an actual device, but it's a test.
Yeah, also with device, I feel like the regulations themselves are not so well understood, so there are a lot of room for interpretation. So people with regulatory experience have many years of experience working in the device field and bring in a lot of expertise.
Yeah, I'd say that's one of the challenging parts sometimes, is interpreting the rules that are a little fuzzy.
That's why we have jobs, though.
Yeah.
In terms of the future, just in our office here, I think we keep growing. So our office started out as one person and then was 3 people. When I was hired 6 or 7 months ago, they actually hired 3 people at one time, I think, which was helpful in terms of the chances of getting a job. They had a lot of positions open. Our office is still expanding, so we're now the Office of Regulatory Affairs and Quality, and we're trying to build out that quality side. So it's not the same as regulatory, but we have actually 3 open positions for those quality positions right now. And I brought some information about them if you want to talk to me after, if you're also potentially interested in quality. But yeah, I could see our office continue to keep growing in the future with both regulatory and quality.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the, regulatory is one of the few fields where people say to me like, oh, I was contacted by a recruiter. I'm really happy where I am now, but this recruiter contacted, so.
All the time.
That's why a lot of the people in our office left, is because they got jobs at biotech companies. I think they were recruited away, so we had to replace them.
And that's, again, it's in stark contrast to clinical, right? Because if a company is ramping up to run a huge phase 3 trial, and you run the trial and it might take 2 years and the trial fails, a lot of companies in this area recently, Argos, Chimerics, then a lot of those people were let go. They're not doing phase 3 clinical trials anymore, so why are we going to keep the clinical people around? So to the point that I think everybody is making is the job market is a little more stable and regulatory.
Yes.
Is a postdoc necessary, and if so, how long would you recommend shoot for timing-wise?
I don't think it's necessary. I mean, it didn't hurt, it helped, but there's another person in my group that didn't do a postdoc, went directly from PhD to regulatory affairs. So I'd say if you're gonna do it, no more than a year or 2.
I didn't do a postdoc. I think we definitely want PhD level scientists in our group, but not necessarily postdocs.
Yeah, my colleagues, the regulatory colleagues, they come from all different backgrounds. I mean, a lot of them don't even have an advanced degree. They only got a bachelor degree in biology-related discipline, or some has like engineering background. Yeah, but they can do the job. But I would say more senior you go, I mean, the advanced degree is definitely preferred because we do want people able to read and able to interpret the data well.
It's definitely going to open more doors for you being a PhD trained scientist. And, as for the postdoc, I mean, I think that what Kelly said is probably a good sort of earmark. If you're going to do one for 1 or 2 years and kind of get out there and do as much networking and try to be working from the day you set foot in that postdoc on getting out of the postdoc. If you do not want to pursue academia, sorry, that sounded terrible. For posterity.
Well, and look for a postdoc that may be geared towards, right, like mine was more actually working with human samples and,
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And otherwise, if you're going to try to skip that process, you just recommend going into an internship like the ones that you all mentioned, or?
Camargo does require a year of postdoc experience for the internship. So they consider it important.
They do. Camargo loves the postdoc. So, I mean, that's one company that hires a lot of people PhD scientists in this area that want to see that. But I think that's a rare thing.
And I mean, the internships take some time and it's not paid, so if you can't do it while you're in grad school, it would be a good opportunity to do it as a postdoc.
All the ones with pharma companies are paid.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they have to be. And some of them are actually very well paid. So if you can do that while doing your postdoc, it's a nice little bump.
There are also some companies offer full-time training program. Like you are the full-time employee with them, but it's more like a training program. And it doesn't usually require a lot of work experience. So that would be a very good opportunity for people to set their foot in the regulatory. I remember Pfizer should have one, Johnson & Johnson has one.
GSK.
Yeah, GSK. Genentech, we have another training program.
Dan, you had a question?
Yeah, I overheard Josh saying his company is based in Germany. I wanted to see if you guys have an opinion on like the international scope of regulatory affairs. I'm sure these pharma companies, they do an international release after the U.S. release, or what's your view on that? Is it a totally separate set of skills versus working with the FDA and the USDA?
So it is very different, and the number one difference really, and actually it's usually most companies it's flipped, because the U.S. for most drugs is the largest market. So most companies are motivated to get their drug approved in the U.S. first, and then go ex-U.S. But that all depends on the company, the drug, the situation, all that fun stuff. The main difference is FDA pretty much, as a rule of thumb, requires 2 placebo-controlled phase 3 trials to get a new chemical entity approved. Whereas EMA, the EU sort of governing board that does a lot of the little member states, they do comparator trials, which makes it difficult to do global drug development if FDA wants you to do placebo-controlled studies, and a lot of the European countries think it's unethical to run placebo-controlled studies. So that's where a lot of the strategy and money spending comes in, different development programs, and talking to FDA, talking to BfArM, which is the authority in Germany, and sort of seeing if you can get alignment between those regulatory agencies. And then sometimes you have a package that's approved with FDA, and you'll take that package ex-US and meet with the authority in Japan, or meet with BfArM, and see if what you have would be sufficient. And these are some of the meetings that people talk about: pre-IND meetings, end of phase 2 meetings, pre-NDA meetings, scientific advice meetings, which is what they call them in the EU. But that's a challenge.
My company is a UK-based company, so we mostly do EU market and US market, but usually US would be the major thing we would consider first, because like marketing value is much higher here. But a lot of time we do plan both EU strategy and US strategy at the same time to see whether we can go to both agencies at the same time. Like especially for drug developed at an early phase, like pre-IND. At the pre-IND phase, we wanted to talk to FDA, but also to talk to EMA. So we just had an EMA meeting actually a few weeks ago, and we got some feedback from them. Now we move on to talk to FDA, and we are planning to let FDA know that we've already communicated with EMA, and this is their feedback. Would you agree, or something like that? Also, for drug development, like a global drug development, you will always consider like a feasibility, whether it's feasible to conduct a trial in certain country. And for Europe, it can be tricky to decide which country to choose from, because there are so many countries there, and each country would have slightly different requirements, and you need to do the application basically individually, the clinical trial application individually with each country. And sometimes we got rejected. I mean, the trial got rejected. They wouldn't allow us to conduct certain trial. Then we would be okay, then we choose another one. Or maybe we just totally forget EU for at the moment, and we just want to focus on US at this stage. So there are a lot of strategy planning around.
I'm going to ask the salary question because everybody always wants to know that. So the postdoc minimum now is 4.8, 4.86. Do you get paid better than that?
Yes, but that's not bad for a postdoc. Man, where was that when I was a postdoc? Good for you guys.
And I would say Duke probably isn't as good as pharma or CRO, but it's a little better than that, yeah.
I'm like, can you be more specific? I'm not really specific, because anything is better than 48,000, but I'm just saying, can you like say the tens of thousands, like how better is it, like compared, because
So you mean
is it like only like
60,000,
60,000, or is it like 80,000, or like is it in the 90s? Because that makes
Having a PhD is gonna help you be able to negotiate for more, because you have, especially in a pharma company, you know, a lot of the Duke positions, many of these people have scientific backgrounds, they have PhDs, they've done postdocs. Camargo is another one of the local examples has a PhD, but you get to places like GW, where Tina is, or you get to Merge, you get the other big pharma places, they don't have that. But, I mean, coming out, postdoc, PhD, CRO, you'll get paid less than a pharma company. Pharma company, it all depends. You get a small startup, you get mid-sized, you get big. You want numbers though, not these non-specific things. Probably, I think, fair coming out, working at like a CRO, you can be looking at like 65 to 75, and pharma, probably a little bit higher, 75 to 85, in like a sort of specialist position.
It varies a lot depending on the position, what kind of position you get. The more senior you go, of course, you will get more. But I mean, I took an entry-level position. I started as a regulatory affairs specialist, and I got paid. I wouldn't say double the salary, the postdoc salary, but a little bit more than the postdoc salary. But being a PhD, I was able to show that I have the potential to perform well in the field. I'm very trainable, I'm very adaptive, and my manager, she can clearly see I have the potential. So I can be promoted quickly and move up quickly in the field.
And as Molly alluded to, once you get into this field, you'll have recruiters calling you, you'll have recruiters messaging you on LinkedIn all the time. And you know, if the opportunity to move jobs, and that is the quickest way to get your salary to start going up sort of exponentially, is to move every 2 years. Now, if that's what's really important to you, you can definitely do that and get it up pretty high pretty quickly. It's all about, you know, what's really important to you. But my number one soapbox thing to everybody in here, if you're fortunate enough to get into the position where you get a job offer, please, for yourself, negotiate that job offer. Do not accept the first value they give you. I know you're all thinking, oh, it'd just be awesome if I got a job offer. I don't even care what it is, I'll take it. You'll feel so like gracious to get out of your postdoc, get out of grad school. No, you have to negotiate. You have to ask for more, even if they say no. If that's the number one way to get your salary high from the start, and to kind of keep it at a high level and continue to go to that level, please negotiate your offer. All of these places are expecting you to negotiate your offer. It's uncomfortable, but do it. Do it.
Even at Duke, I'd say you can do a little bit of negotiation.
Always ask for more. The worst that they can do is say no. If you're at that stage where they're passing the paper over, you know, from like a movie where you flip it over and they see stuff, that doesn't actually happen. But if you're at that point, like, they want you, they want to hire you. They're not going to not hire you because you ask for $5,000 more in annual salary. Like, ask for it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm thrilled about this offer. May I ask, is this negotiable? That's it. 3 little words. Is this negotiable? And if they say no, they're not going to, you know. Yeah. All right, questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
So most of the scientists, like postdocs or PhDs, are trained to do bench science or like to wet labs, but not really trained for regulatory affairs unless they are doing some technical research. Is there like how much, when you get a job, how much training and how much time you're given to get your feet running? And another thing is that how is the transition, during the transition time, like what are the things that you have to pick up as quickly as possible during this transition time?
I was just hired 6 or 7 months ago, so I guess I'm not too far out of the training type period. I would say I was a little bit thrown into it, which can be scary, but I definitely was like going to meetings with more senior people to like see how they conduct them. I had to start writing documents by myself basically immediately, but then I would have my supervisor kind of look it over or go over it with me. So there wasn't any kind of like formalized training, but it was kind of, you know, getting to work with other people and making sure you're doing a good job.
So do you have like templates for some of this documents that you have to write, or do you have to write from scratch?
We have on our website actually templates where it kind of tells you what to put in each section. Usually what we do here at Duke is ask an investigator for a grant or something like that, and then we kind of try to pull some of the information and rewrite it so that it kind of fits what FDA is looking for. But yeah, we have templates where it tells you like what FDA is looking for in each section, which is based on regulations and guidance documents.
For the consent forms, Duke has a lot of standard language for how they want you to say things, and you can find that on the Duke IRB website. And that's also something that will be different between different institutions or companies. I know like other academic institutions that run clinical trials have their specific way of doing things. Duke has a very specific way of doing things, but you can always find that information online on the website, or reach out to someone that can help you.
And a lot of the guidance documents that FDA puts out for these various regulatory documents that you would submit very clearly lay out exactly what they want in each section. Like we want this section to be section 1, and this is what we want in section 1. So it's very, if you can follow rules, you can be a quick study in regulatory affairs.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of templates for a lot of the application documents, but you can always read like the old application document for another drug, like something we did before. I mean, the similar language, you can just take it from there. Also, you will be surprised, like after you write the document, how many people will review it. So it's not like it's a one-person job.
Especially if you work at a global company that has U.S. teams and ex-U.S. teams, and clinical has to read it, and safety has to read it, and line managers of those people then have to review it. Yeah, it's not like for most places, unless you're at a very small place, there will be so much review that you'll be so sick of the document by the time it's kind of submitted.
Also, some sections, you are not going to be the lead author. Like for toxicology, I'm not the toxicologist. I will let our toxicologist to write the tox section. The pharmacology, I will ask our pharmacologist to write those. So I'm not going to write everything in that document. I will ask the subject matter experts to do the job.
That's an interesting point that Tina brought up. At pharma companies, at bigger companies, like there is literally a person for each of those tasks. At a smaller place like Camargo, when I was there, I was writing all of the sections in the NDA. Whether or not I was qualified to do that, it's debatable. 2 NDAs that I wrote while I was there were just approved this year, so we did all right. But
You had an eyeball thing once, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Yeah. You see a lot of interesting drug products when you work in that CRO space, for sure.
We had a question all the way in the back.
It was me.
Yep, that's you.
How do you find the work-life balance in this field? Do you find you're like taking home these briefs that you have to write all the time, or like you can leave it at work and you go home?
It's way better than the postdoc, I'll say that. That was one of my main driving factors, was as a postdoc, that the late hours, the pressure to just be working all the time, thinking all the time, like it was affecting my personal life. And so now there are times where you may have a deadline coming up and yeah, you need to work late, or you need to take it home and work over the weekend, but that's not that often. As long as you have good time management and you can get your job done. I mean, I work like 8:30 to 5 pretty much every day, Monday to Friday. So
I would agree, my work-life balance is pretty good also, but I'll say that the associate director and director of our office send me emails at like 2 a.m. They send me sometimes a lot of emails between like 9:30 and 10:30 at night, so I think the higher up you go, at least in our office, the less work-life balance there is.
I'd probably agree with that. The higher up you go, the less it becomes, and I think it also varies from place to place in terms of work-life balance. When I was at the CRO, I was definitely doing more work because there you're billing literally by the hour, so you're keeping track of what you're doing on an hour-to-hour basis. So at the end of the week, you need to show that you've been billable, so that your salary essentially is being covered by the work that you're doing. So it varies from CRO to CRO, but you need to make sure that 30 of those 40 hours are actually billable to a client and not just getting charged to the company on overhead. So I was definitely working more and longer hours there. I would say it's definitely better than postdoc or graduate school by far. And then in pharma, even better than the CRO world, because I'm not keeping track of my hours. I'm just doing things when people ask me to do them. You know, weird little perks like they pay for the gym membership for the gym that's right around the corner, and like totally okay to go during the workday at any point. And if you go, you'll see 5 other people that work at your company on the treadmill or I'm doing some bench press, like, and that's fine. You know, as long as you're getting your work done on time. And it's, I think the bigger the company is, a lot of times the slower the pace is.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of them. I do feel like the work-life balance is much better being working in the industry. I mean, occasionally I do work extra time, but that's because my colleagues, like people from other departments, they didn't deliver the things to me on time. But if I need to make the submission on Monday and they deliver something to me on Friday, then I probably need to work a few hours during the weekend. But that's not very often. Also, when I first joined the company, it's become my habit of being in academia for so many years. I tend to check emails during the weekend or like at the evening time. Then we have the Skype to show your status, and my manager, she can tell whether I was online or not. And she noticed like I was probably checking my emails at the evening time or during the weekend, and she asked me like, how do you feel about your workload? Is this too much for you? If it's too much, I mean, we can totally like easy things down. Yeah, I was so surprised when she asked me that.
Regulatory really goes in peaks and valleys. You'll have, you know, when you're ramping up for a big submission, it'll be busy. You might work later, longer hours for that week or two or a month. But then there'll be a time when no important documents are going out and you'll see 5 of your colleagues on the treadmill at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday.
Yes.
I was wondering if you're looking into some of these internships or something like that, if there's anything you can do to kind of make yourself stand out a little bit, like perhaps getting involved in writing outside of some primary research articles and things like that. Do things like that look appealing?
Yeah, I mean, really anything you can do to set yourself apart is, I mean, if you think that would look good, it's probably going to look good to whoever is like reading your resume. And if it's stretching you, like, or if it's a unique skill set, or if it's a, you know, a good training opportunity, then like by all means, yeah, absolutely.
So I can tell you my story when I interviewed for my current position. So the position I applied for was initially for a regulatory manager level position. They were looking for people with at least 3 to 5 years work experience, someone who just can just work on any project without much training. But after a while, they weren't able to find a perfect candidate. Then the hiring manager, who is my boss right now, she told the recruiter that she is willing to consider someone who is trainable with less experience. So when the recruiter reached out to me saying this is an opportunity and they are willing to make it more like an entry-level position for you if you're willing to consider. I was like, yeah, of course. So I got the interview with my manager, and when she interviewed me, she took a look at my resume, and she can clearly tell I don't really have much industry experience at that time. But I can tell her at least I was doing all these internships with different companies. I was able to write. I get involved in a lot of writing, not just academia, like paper writing, but also like a regulatory type of writing. So she was surprised to know that, and she said, oh, do you have any writing samples to show me? So I showed her like something I've written for, not really for company, but I took some writing classes. So I have some writing samples, I showed it to her. So basically, to demonstrate that I'm able to write. Also, I told her specifically, your company is specialized in neurological diseases, and my PhD background is in neuroscience. So this fits really well with my background. I mean, you are doing some drugs. I did some research before I did the interview. I was looking at what kind of drugs they have, what kind of disease area they're looking at. So I noticed there are several diseases. One of the diseases I was working on for my postdoc research project. So I was able to talk to her saying, I'm very familiar with that disease. I have the research background. I will be very excited to be involved in a drug development for that disease. So all of this information coming together persuade her that I will be a good candidate. At least I will be a quick learner, although I don't have the direct industry experience.
Sorry. So what writing class you attend?
I think that was offered by University of Southern California. Yeah, but I need to double check on that because that was like 5 years ago or something.
USC does do a lot of regulatory type training activities. They have like a master's degree in regulatory science.
I didn't pay for that class, but
Yeah.
I feel it's worthwhile.
Okay, we've reached the end of our time, so let's thank our panelists very much for coming.